I just wanted to say, full disclosure, I do own the stock Golden Cross. We did recommend it. So, it's a spec, but I think it's a good spec. If you're looking at early stage drill plays, whatever your criteria might be, I think this meets a lot of that criteria. But again, it's a spec. But I like it, and I think there's a reasonable chance, by this time next year that they might be onto something. So could be interesting.
They're
Well,
drilling
and
old workings, and they've got a lot of them, and so
Yeah,
far
they have evidence that they have more ladders than actually
a lot,
Southern Cross has.
a lot more.
A
55.
lot more. Again, it's early stage. I know that it's total spec, but I do like it. I think it's worth a position.
I actually like this one. I think the geologic settings right. Alan seems to have a handle on what he's doing. This is 35 million market cap compared to $1 billion next door. It's going to be tough. It's going to take a lot of very detailed drilling. These ladders, as he calls them, are only 20, they're maximum 100 meters across. So you've got to target those pretty good. So it's going to take a lot of drilling. But the geologic setup, I like. I don't see the urgency to buy it right now, but it's worth a punt, I think.
right. If I could just add to that, I agree. It's a great location. It's a fertile geological setting. And beyond that, they've got a few drill holes that show there is definitely gold in this particular system. And the previous workings confirm that. And Southern Cross next door provides a model. And beyond just the model and the closology, they've got that verified team that's going to bring their insights from the Southern Cross project to this. And I think add a lot of value to them and really enhance their systematic approach to drill targeting.
All right, we're here today with Golden Cross Resources. Matt Roma is in charge. Why don't you go ahead, take it away, Matt?
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. And appreciate you having us and letting us share our story here. Let me just share my screen. Awesome. Very excited to share this fairly new story. So Golden Cross Resources is a high-grade gold exploration story located in Victoria, Australia. We are traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the ticker AUX and on the OTCQB under the ticker ZCRMF. We launched this company in April of 2025, and it is an exploration story that is already well underway. A little bit of background. We own 445 square kilometers directly north and contiguous to Southern Cross and their Sunday Creek discovery, arguably the biggest gold discovery of 2024, I think now valued at close to $1.5 billion. A little backstory on how we came to this project and what attracted us. We started negotiating to purchase 100% of this asset about almost 12 months ago from a company called Great Pacific Gold. And for those who are unfamiliar with that company, they are mainly focused in Papua New Guinea. One of the founders, Brian Slazarchuk, was also the founders of K92 Mining. And after moving on from K92, put together another land package quite near there called under the brand GPAC. And they also had these assets in Australia that were in their eyes considered non-core, but still very prospective. And one of my partners and directors, Daryl Carty, was also involved in K92 and close with Brian. They worked out of the same building. And when we got wind that these assets may be for sale, we jumped at the opportunity and started some due diligence. And lo and behold, at the time, Southern Cross was basically a 250 million market cap company listed solely on the ASX and quite familiar in North America, at least to the retail market. So that was about back in August. And then fast forward to December when we actually inked the transaction with GPAC. Southern Cross was about a 450 million market cap company, starting to make some headway, but still fairly unknown to the market here in North America. And then by the time we started trading in April of this year, Southern Cross was a duly listed company, both in the ASX and TSX Venture Exchange. They were over $1 billion market cap and really brought the focal point back to Victoria and the potential for exploration in this area. it's very well known for high grade gold deposits and world-class mines in the Fosterville mine and the Costerfield mine. But exploration wasn't that prominent until Southern Cross and made this discovery that they made. And in our eyes, we've timed this purchase and this listing just at the right time. So I'm the director and CEO, and a bit of background on myself. I'm a chartered accountant by trade. I've been in this business for about 13 years. Been on the issuer side since about 2017. I've been helping build public companies and getting companies off the ground. I was the founding CFO of Snowline Gold, another world-class gold discovery up in the Yukon. I was also the co-founder, or am the co-founder of Gladiator Metals Corp, a Yukon copper developer. And I recently transitioned out of Snowline to focus on Golden Cross because I saw the potential here and loved the asset. Along on the board with me are my partners, Daryl Cardy and Nick Rowley. Both gentlemen have been in this space for a long time. Daryl was the co-founder of Northern Empire and Underworld Resources, both two successful exits in the gold space. The other director, Nick Rowley, been in this business for almost 2 decades now. Was the director of corporate development of Galaxy Resources, which was just now acquired by Rio Tinto this year for north of $6.5 billion. So a board that's been in this space for a long time and has made some discoveries and been able to finance good projects and ultimately transact in the space. And that's what we're here to do again today. On the call with me is Alan Till, our VP of Exploration. Alan, maybe I'll let you introduce yourself and give a bit of background.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so I've got about 17 years experience in the exploration industry. Been pretty fortunate during that time to work with some great companies and lots of interesting projects. Started off with Moly Mines back in 2007 with the Spinifex Ridge copper moly porphyry deposit. And then after that work, I've gone back to uni, completed the degree and worked over in Tanzania on Hangi graphite project. So that was exciting. We took basically from mapping the outcrop for the first time to a JORC resource in 9 months. It was a busy time, but probably one of my prouder achievements of the career. And it's been a few other moments since then. After spending what I felt like was enough time over in East Africa, I went back to WA, worked in the Fraser Range for Reedy Creek and Silver Knight and with Legend Mining following that. And then one of the directors that I'd worked with on the Mangi project did a float in Victoria. So I came over about 5 years ago, started working around the Victorian goldfields and eventually led to this project, which is pretty exciting, I think.
Thanks, Alan. So this is just a close-up view of our project and how it intertwines with Southern Cross and Victoria in general. So we are the teal shaded tenements here and to the east, and Southern Cross is to the south and to the east as well. And obviously up to the northwest here, you've got the Costerfield mine and the Fosterville mine. And where we're drilling right now, and our core focus right now is the Reedy Creek area, and it's about 10 kilometers north of Sunday Creek, and they're about $1.5 billion gold discovery right here. Between basically December when we signed the transaction with Great Pacific Gold and April when we began to list, Southern Cross has now staked this little tenement package here to our east here. And what we can see from their exploration efforts, they're moving northeast here towards this newly staked area directly through our claim block. And fortunately, geology doesn't stop at property borders. So we're excited to see what they have as they move closer. And this southern part is directly from Southern Cross's website. This is their Sunday Creek mineralized trend, as we can see heading northeast. And what we've done is we've mapped a 3-kilometer golden soil anomaly, basically right from the southern area of our claim block, heading northwest towards Fosterville and Costerfield up this way. So for those of you that are not overly familiar with Victoria, this was an area that was prolific for artisanal mining back in the late 1800s till about 1910. And I think it's estimated that there was about 40,000 ounces of gold produced from the Reedy Creek area at an average grade of about 28 grams per ton. And once we had access to this land package when the deal closed, what we did is we flew the project with LiDAR imagery, and all of these red dots represent old historical gold workings and mine shafts. And based on limited technology that they had back then, they would find these high grade veins and they would dig them out as deep as they could with the limited technology, and they would move on. And if they didn't get into it, obviously they would move on anyway. And every one of these red dots represents an historical gold working. And I'm highlighting that because this is actually the proxy for why Southern Cross drilled Sunday Creek. This is their project right here. And they identified 6 old gold workings on that property. And lo and behold, today, I think their current resource forecast is 3.6 million ounces at 10.6 grams per ton. And again, that was solely focused on 6 old gold workings. And you can see we have clusters throughout our project with the highest concentration right here at this Reedy Creek target. Now, if you've watched any of Mike Hudson, the CEO of Southern Cross's videos that he's done, he does a fantastic job of highlighting this ladder style geology. And for those unfamiliar, if you imagine, you take a ladder and you turn it on its side, and the rungs of a ladder represent high grade gold veins. And again, when I mentioned earlier, they have 6 old gold workings. They have 3 old gold workings in a 600-meter trend, and then another 3 old gold workings on another 600-meter trend, for a total of 1,400 meters over the whole area of their project. So what we did once we had this LiDAR imagery is we said, okay, anywhere where we have at least 3 old gold workings in a 600-meter trend, let's represent it by a ladder across our project. And as you can see, and this is to scale, this is Southern Cross's Sunday Creek here, and this is our project to the north and to the east. You can see the amount of ladders that we've identified. There's north of 50 ladders across the project, with the highest concentration right here at Reedy Creek with 20 ladders. Now, the typical way to test these ladders when you drill is you drill near surface. You make sure you can hit the vein where you think you will. You understand the grade, tenor, and the geometry of the vein. Once you've kind of proven that you've got some stacked veins, then you would step out and drill a deeper hole and target multiple vein structures. And when Southern Cross did that and they drilled their first deep hole and they hit multiple vein structures, that was really the turning point for Southern Cross and shot them from a 250, 300 million market cap company to $1 billion gold discovery. And that's exactly what we plan to do and are doing currently right now. So as I mentioned earlier, 55 ladders at our project, highest concentration right here at Reedy Creek. Some of the exploration work to date. So the company that owned this before, Great Pacific, they went out there and they didn't do a lot of work before drilling. They went out there and kind of wildcatted some holes. And I'll give them credit, they had some success. So down to the south, they drilled 2 meters at 325 grams per ton gold. Up here a little more northern, they had 29 meters at 22 grams per ton, including 0.7 at 240 grams per ton. They had 7 meters at 48 here, 4 meters at 10, 11 grams northern. So we know there's gold there. So what we did is we took the data that the Great Pacific drilled. We took our LiDAR imagery, and then we structurally mapped this 3-kilometer trend of those 20 ladders I showed you earlier. And that's really the core focus of all of the work to date on where we started drilling and why we started drilling where we did. So when we launched this company in April, we announced a 6,000 meter fully funded program with the core focus of that being at Reedy Creek. And we just recently closed another financing in early July and added another $5 million to the till. So we have a fully funded, call it 15,000 meter program right now to test these ladders. And we're in the first inning of hopefully an extra inning ball game and no shortage of targets and a lot of blue sky. So I mentioned we launched this company in April and we raised $4.7 million at 15 cents with no warrant. We traded up till about mid 60 cents. We just put away another $5 million at 45 cents with a half warrant at 65 cents. That was led by Jupiter Asset Management, a mining fund out of the UK. When we initially launched the most recent financing, our goal was to raise $3 million. We had close to $20 million in demand with Jupiter Asset Management looking to take down the entire financing. So it was very, there's some difficult conversations that were had to keep everyone engaged and interested. And we have now an institutional bench of 20% of this company owned by them that want to see us succeed. And as long as we perform on the drill bit, we think there's money to be invested and to continue to grow this story. A third of the company is owned by management and insiders and close associates. Great Pacific Gold, who we acquired the project from, still retains a 5% equity position. And then about 45% of this company is really owned by the who's who of retail and high net worth investors in both North America and Australia. And ultimately, this is not a complicated story. This is a drill punt with a ton of blue sky. We're capped at about a 35 million market cap with a $1.5 billion neighbor. And we are very excited that we were about 1,000 meters into our program. We're very happy with what we see. We started out with one rig. The intent was to bring a second rig in September. We just announced last week that we've added that second rig. What we started off to drill the short holes, we did that. We were getting into the vein where we were hoping to, but as soon as we put the $5 million away, we started drilling deeper holes. The first hole we drilled deeper was about 330 meters. We were targeting 3 vein structures. We hit every one of the veins as planned. So we have no shortage of targets right now and 2 rigs rotating around to see what we have. And yeah, I'll open it up to the panel for any questions.
Okay, that was great, Matt. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, who would like to go first? Brent Cook, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, great presentation.
Thank you.
I guess I'm going to go straight to Alan and ask some geologic questions. What sort of level are you with regards to where you go from brittle to ductile and start getting into more of the higher grade gold antimony? Where do you think you are relative to that right now?
The gold's definitely associated with brittleness. So we're seeing brecciation that gold bearing quartz is flooding through and bringing a lot of water with it. We're sort of a hybrid where we are between a chute controlled system such as seen at Fosterville and the sort of the ladder or the sheeted quartz veins down at Reedy Creek. But what we have is the structures bearing the fluid, brittle structures, and they're cutting through what was previously a ductile system or turbite sequence that's been folded. And it's where these, it's the interaction of these faults and the host anticline that's really affecting how the gold is precipitated out.
So you're thinking your drilling right now is into the high grade portion of this system? Or these systems?
I think there's better grades at depth.
Okay.
The holes that we're on now are better than the holes that we did 2 weeks ago, and the holes we did 2 weeks ago I thought were pretty good. We're still waiting on assays, but what we're seeing in the core is matching our expectations at this stage. We've been able to look at the old workings, map the trends of those, drill beneath them, and we're seeing what the old timers were pulling out.
All right. And are you seeing the broader alteration halo going from quartz carbonate to the pyrite and then the microfractures coming as you get to the main vein or shear or ladder? Are you seeing that same thing?
We are seeing that, yeah. So we're seeing the pyrite halo, which can be subtle in places, but when we go back and check, it's there. We're seeing those thin sulfide veinlets and sort of selvages that are shooting off from the main zones of mineralization. Yeah, no, it's looking very nice.
Okay, final question. Permitting, is it tough getting drill permits there? What are the restrictions on you?
So the permits where we're working here is it's mostly triggered by if we're too close to a creek. So there's a 200 meter buffer around any named creek. So we're lucky that we're able to carry on work on a previous permit that was granted to GPAC. But as we sort of step out and move along the corridor, we've sort of, we should have unbroken run at drill access because we've got I'd say 70% of the areas we want to drill aren't affected by that sort of buffer zone. And the other areas we can get the permits through in time.
All right. Thanks very much. I'll pull off here.
Thank you,
Sign off.
Brent. I
Right.
appreciate it. So I'm sorry, I didn't see who was next. Let's go with Nick.
Hey, thank you guys. So just to confirm, with this latest financing in earlier this month, how much cash do you, and that included a half warrant at 65 cents, I think I heard.
That's correct.
How much cash do you have now, and how long do you expect that'll last you before you need to raise funds again? Number one, and number two, for future financings, do you expect the terms to be similar, half warrant, like you had in the previous ones with a half warrant?
So Nick, yes, confirming that the most recent financing was done with a half warrant at 65. We've got just shy of about $7 million today. So that'll take us well into 2026, call it mid-year. In terms of terms on a future financing, I think that's going to really be dictated by the market. It definitely feels like in the last month or two that we're coming into a much more bullish market for precious metals. So we'll see where we're at when we need to finance again. But our current program and with this second rig is fully funded well into 2026. So yeah, to be honest with you, not a topic of conversation today, but yeah, we'll see where the market takes us into 2026.
Okay, good. Those were my only questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Matt, I may have missed it, but that second rig that's out there now, is it out there
Yes.
drilling now? Okay.
Yeah, so we added a second rig in July. Basically, as soon as we had color that this financing that we just got done was going to get done, we pushed fast forward on the second rig, originally targeted for September. But based on what we're seeing and the cash we have, there was no reason to hold off until September.
Smart. Okay, Ed, you're next. Please go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Thank you for the presentation. So, couple questions. How deep was the Southern Cross hole when it launched to that $1 billion valuation?
So they started drilling deeper, and they've started drilling holes anywhere from about 350 meters. I think some of their holes are all the way down to 900 meters, but I think their first significant hole was just shy of 400 meters.
Right. And so when they did that, in the old days, I don't know how much of this is a myth, but in the old days, a company would make a discovery and they would stake and acquire all the contiguous prospects surrounding it. And this area hasn't been really explored for a long, long time, right? Well, at least before the last 10 years or so. And so I'm just wondering what prevented Southern Cross from getting your prospects?
So Brian Slazarchuk, who is the founder of Great Pacific Gold,
Right.
and my partner and director, Daryl Carty, go back to K92. And really, it was a relationship that allowed us in the room to be in negotiations for these assets. And what Great Pacific really wanted to do is they wanted to see these assets go to a group that can move them forward, can finance them, but they also really wanted an equity portion of the company was going to. And the way we structured the deal was we paid them $1 million in cash, and we gave them a 10% carry in the company post-money, post-spend, so that they could have a ride in the upside if we make a discovery of scale, which obviously we hope to do. And I'm not sure that Southern Cross was interested in providing an equity kicker as part of the transaction. So I think it was a combination of ultimately a relationship that goes back, a decade, also having an opportunity to enjoy the equity ride that we provided.
Okay. And so my sense of this area is that a lot of it has, there's a lot of the artisanal workings and so forth. So I'm assuming a lot of this near surface stuff has been mined out over the years because it's an old gold field, right? And so I guess what I'm going to ask is, are you guys aiming at finding stuff near surface and sort of at an open pit scenario, or are you just targeting the ladders at depth and thinking about underground mining operation sorts?
So,
Well, maybe I'll defer to you on this one if you don't mind.
no problem. So we're definitely targeting the ladders at depth because I want to get a clean shot at these reefs, these vein sets, get a fresh look. the structural control on the system is going to be one of the most important things for us to get a grasp on, and we're systematically building up that picture. But as for the shallow intercepts, so one of our early holes, based on surface mapping and mapping of some of the old adits and shafts, we're able to intercept mineralization at 28 meters, and that was 7 meters away from a panel that had been stoped out by one of the old timers. So yeah, it's a mix. As we build up our structural knowledge of the area and the model, we'll be able to identify these panels and other areas that are offset and may have been missed by the early mining. But definitely most of the drilling is aiming at just getting a fresh look at these things, building up the picture and starting to map them out at depth.
So are you going to fast track like to a maiden resource, or are you going to are you just going to continue to concentrate on a wide step out sort of exploration program to fully gauge the potential of the district?
There'll be a mix of both. I want to get a feel for, there's quite a few, there's about 5 key areas at this stage that really excite me. Reedy Creek looks like it's the biggest of those. And I think in the next month or so, we're going to be testing a second area. So I want to get an early look at a lot of these targets, but then the goal is to fast track to a resource once we find the best area. At the moment, that looks like it's Reedy Creek.
And do you think you'll get that resource with the current cash position that you have?
I think we'll get on our way to a resource with current cash, definitely.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave.
Alan, just to touch on Ed's question there, maybe just touch on some of the regional exploration work we're doing at Providence and in particular Welcome Reef.
Yeah, so this is what we've just acquired land access to Welcome Reef last week. So I'm there on Thursday with the structural geologist. We're going to be mapping the old workings and start designing a couple of holes to test that. It's actually a really exciting system because talking to the landowner and looking through the old reports, one of the co-founders of Westpac actually fronted his money based on this old working. So it's a large system, potentially large system. Reports say it was worked down to about 350 meters deep. And based on the LiDAR imagery and the size of the mullock poles, it's probably one of the larger workings that we've seen today.
And it has seen zero modern exploration.
Yeah, not a single drill hole. I think there was a geochem grid over it in the 80s.
Okay, great.
And for those of you unfamiliar, Westpac is one of, if not the largest Australian bank, and the founder of that bank made his money on this gold field.
Interesting. Okay, Adrian, you're up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. I had just a couple of quick questions. The warrants, when do they expire?
So there's 2 batches of warrants, and there's 25-cent warrants, and those expire in about March 2027. And the warrants that were just issued in the financing that closed in July are 2-year warrants and expire in July of 2027.
Right. Okay. Are people exercising their March, the 25-cent ones already, or not really?
So the 25-cent warrants are in the hands of basically the original partners in the company. In order for us to acquire the project, we had to pay Great Pacific Gold a $500,000 non-refundable deposit. And those warrants were issued as part of that placement. So those are in extremely friendly hands and will be exercised at the right time when needed, but are not expected to be exercised anytime soon.
Okay. But if you run low on money, you could do some
Absolutely. Absolutely can call on those, yes.
Okay. Just to confirm, all the dollar figures were Canadian dollars.
Sorry, yes, those are all Canadian dollar figures.
Okay. This is just an FYI. A lot of the information on Bloomberg looks to be out of date.
Okay.
So I don't know if it says Jorge Benavides is CEO.
Yeah, that goes back many, many years. So that is definitely out of date.
That's just an example, but and in the share registry, the largest shareholder who is it? The largest shareholder is Nick Rowley with 1%. So anyway, a lot of the
That information is out of date.
So somebody should probably, I will contact them if you want, but they will never take my word for it. They will
No
want someone
problem.
from the company, yeah.
No, I
And
appreciate
then
it.
lastly, if I may, can you go to that first slide you showed us of the map?
Yes.
Now, this is going to demonstrate my ignorance because I'm not a geologist.
This area?
Well, I'm not seeing it at the moment. You need
Oh,
to
Yeah,
Sure.
share your screen again, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at, Bendigo and Ballarat and then obviously Fosterville and so on, is the geology similar to what Golden Cross and you have? Are there trends that go, northeast running across from your ground up to Fosterville? And I ask that because this to me seemed, unless you're trying to show that Victoria is a very, very active place with, it's been around for over a century and there's a lot of big companies that have big deposits in Victoria. What a great place to work. I found this a little, one word would be confusing, one word would be deceptive, but somehow there's a connection between Golden Cross and Fosterville. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Sure. I think, Alan, you can probably address this.
Yeah. Yeah. I see where you're getting at. So it's there's actually a couple of good lectures by one of the Victoria Geological Survey GAs, Ross Paley. So one of the prevailing theories on the mineralisation in Victoria is that it's all quite deeply sourced. It's running up these large sort of primary faults that run through, and they run roughly north-south, and there's several of them running west to east throughout Victoria. The mineralisation tends to be older in the west and gets younger as you move to the east. So by that logic, we would be slightly younger than Fosterville, but would be sharing some of the same mineralisation timing. There's multiple mineralisation events. The host rocks are the same. They're turbidites. Ballarat, Bendigo, ourselves, Reedy Creek. It's turbidites so that's marine sediments, siltstones and shales and some sandstones as well. The faults that are providing the fluid were all produced around the same time. And the system in general, these turbidites are all folded in a very similar way. So Costerfield, Fosterville, ourselves at Reedy Creek, they're all focused around these anticlines, these upright folds, and the way that they interact with the faulting.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. Thank you. That's me.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Lawrence, you're up next, sir. Please go ahead.
A very interesting project, guys. Great setting, and truly, there's a lot of gold in the ground, but it's structurally complex. So you need, clearly you need a systematic approach to laying out the drill holes. Southern Cross was successful in tying it together. That was very encouraging. They noted the use of Verify and an AI enhancement tool, and you've announced the deal with Verify. I'm just wondering, can you elaborate on the use of Verify and AI in general, or what approaches you're using to target the drilling and overcome the structural complexity?
So the main target that we're using at the moment is the LiDAR data, which shows us the old workings. There's over 1,500 old shafts, pits, adits, and trenches that we've identified on the LiDAR data. And these basically allowed us to skip what would otherwise have been probably a geophysics survey or two and probably gridded geochemistry, as we're able to use these old workings as a proxy and just vector straight in. So we can go to the lines of workings, take some rock chip samples, take some measurements, have a look around, verify that these are what we're actually looking for, that they're gold workings, which they are, and then start designing holes underneath. Our work with Verify is probably still in its early stages. We don't have a lot of data. We have a lot of data from a very small area of the project. And then we're sort of relying on the regional geophysics data sets. But what they are able to do is sort of provide some guidance on the regional trends of the folding that it seems important to us, and the faulting at a more regional scale. And as we build that model up, and we're ground truthing that we've got 2 structural geos fairly active with us, and we're building that model up, and then start to get into the finer detail as we identify the areas that we want to drill.
Okay, great. And of course, as you get the information back from this first phase of drilling, it'll enhance the model and give you a much better starting point to work out from there, correct?
It is, yeah. Every
Lawrence,
hole's showing us something new and exciting.
okay.
It's worth noting, Lawrence, as well, that we have the exact same technical team at Verify that worked on Sunday Creek, working on our project. So they know the area, they know the style of mineralization. So we have a lot of expertise that's moving off of Sunday Creek onto our project.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Brian, you're next. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Interesting presentation. I'd like to understand your drill program a little bit better, and I guess the best thing for me to do is try to explain how I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So you started a 6,000 meter drill program early last month, and your first 2,000 meters are testing the Prince of Wales and Wienerreuter Ridge targets. Is that correct?
Yeah. And another target, Shepherds Hill, is being tested at the moment as well.
Okay. And the previous historic drilling looks like it turned up some nice grades, limited widths. I'm curious if the previous drilling had any shoulder mineralization or grade other than those narrow widths. And to your credit, it looks like you're not just twinning those previous holes, but really going along trend and trying to understand it. What leads you to believe, or what are you doing perhaps differently that you think you'll get different or better or more comprehensive results than the historic drilling?
So I think the first thing we're doing is sampling the entire hole for gold, but is also for multi-element suites.
Mm-hmm.
And from the early results, we're seeing that there's a strong link between the arsenic. We're able to identify a low-grade gold halo between the veins. So it's off a very limited number of holes, so that the data set's not huge. But where we've seen multiple veins in a single hole, we're seeing a halo connecting them in low-grade gold as well as the arsenic. As soon as we get beneath what we think is the lowest vein, that drops off within about 5 meters, 10 meters. So that's pretty interesting, because going back and sort of resampling some of the old Currawong drilling, some of the holes sort of end in a arsenic anomaly. So it's something we're going to chase up. The drilling stepping along strike, that's sort of a no-brainer for me, because it's we want to extend this. We want to show that it's spreading out and widening. A lot of the old drilling was RC or RAD drilling, and we just don't get the same level of structural understanding out of those types of holes. So all our drilling's diamond, and it's all being structurally logged.
Okay, so that historic hole, RWD01, was pretty impressive at 29 meters at 21.8 grams per ton, including 0.7 at 239. I didn't input that into Brent's residual grade calculator. Sorry, Brent. But could you tell me what the residual grade of that longer intersection is if you take out that 0.7 meter? Do you?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Probably calculating it for us right now. I see him.
And just while he's doing that, Brian, also when Great Pacific was drilling this project, they were targeting single vein structures. So this
Mhm.
idea of targeting multiple vein structures, stepping out and drilling much deeper holes was not something that they consider. And obviously that is the focus of what we are doing, because as we've seen with Southern Cross, that was really the turning point. Is if you can hit multiple vein structures with a low grade halo and report these like lengthy intercepts at world-class grade, it's going to wake up the market.
Yeah, and my assumption is that the historic drilling pretty much visually assayed what they could see visually, so you didn't get that lower grade halo.
Yeah, they cherry picked the vein and kind of left it at that.
Okay, so last question, 2,000 meters initially, and you started early last month. When should we expect results, and how many? Will it be batched or hole by hole?
Yeah, so we expect to have steady news flow by, call it mid-September onward. And this area we can drill 12 months of the year. And we plan to. And I will highlight, our all-in drill cost per meter is about $230 Canadian with assays. So it's very economic drilling.
How many holes for that 6,000 meters?
Alan, how many holes do you figure we've got budgeted for the 6,000 meters to start? Because I know there's some are longer and some are shorter holes.
So when I'm planning, I don't really look at the budget. I look at what I want to drill. So the number of holes is like currently planned is between 15 and 20, but I couldn't off the top of my head tell you the meterage. It's as we're drilling and building the model, some holes jump up in the priorities and some drop down. And as we open up new areas with land access, that adds to the mix as well. So it's pretty dynamic. And yeah, what I can say is that 6,000 meters will be the best 6,000 meters that we can drill.
And we've got cash for about close to 15,000 meters today. So the first 6,000 meters is really just call it phase 1 and phase 2 of the program.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it. Lau, go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thank you for the presentation. So you just mentioned the cash, and sorry if this is something you already mentioned, but could you also say what your current burn rate is?
So we're spending about, call it 350 grand to 400 grand a month on drilling and exploration costs. And then our corporate overhead is only about 50 grand a month.
Okay. I think you also mentioned that you added a second drill rig recently, begun drilling deeper holes. Can you provide a timeline for this deeper drilling program? Do you have it?
So we started drilling deeper holes basically at the beginning of July. So we're actively drilling deeper holes right now.
Right. And when do you expect to wrap up the program?
So the first 6,000 meters will take us probably close to December, but we will be continuing to drill beyond the 6,000 meters. The 6,000 meters was essentially funded from the first financing we did, just to list the company. And as I mentioned earlier, we topped up another 5 million. So we'll be drilling well into 2026 with our current treasury.
Oh, okay, with your current treasury. Okay. So my last question would be, what milestones should investors be watching for the coming months? And I mean, both in terms of drilling and corporate developments, if you have anything on the horizon.
Yeah. So I think from an exploration results standpoint, the initial catalyst will be the news flow beginning in September. But we also are in the process of negotiating some land access with some key areas that we haven't really talked about publicly. And we're in the process. I think we've signed up 1 or 2 to date, and we're working on another one. So once we have those land access agreements in place, there will be a comprehensive news release outlining the importance of those, the prospectivity of those, and likely the timing of when they will see some more active drilling.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
sure.
Lau. Yeah, Mickey, you're up.
Yeah, I'll address the geology question to Alan. And slide 5, the geology map.
Okay,
Could
if
you
you could
pull
bring that
that
back
up
up,
on
Matt.
Yeah, let me pull it up for you 1 second here. Yeah. Is it this one here?
The
or-
X,
Yeah, that.
I-
Oh, no, it's I guess it'd be the next one.
This one?
The one that shows the rock formations.
so the one with the workings, just this.
Yeah,
That doesn't show it. Yeah.
there we go. Yeah, that one. So you use a Sunday Creek analogy quite often here. But if I just take a look now, I know this is a generalized map. There's two things I see. Sunday Creek is on a synclinal axis versus anticlinal for all your showings. And the other thing is, at least on the surface, it's a different rock type.
Yeah. So the rock type, well, the first thing about Sunday Creek is it's the mineralization is actually hosted within a diorite dike that sort of runs roughly east-west. And the mineralization at Sunday Creek is sort of confined to that. One thing I point out is, Matt, if you could jump to slide 7, the one with the exploration model, that one. So the bottom left corner there shows the Sunday Creek deposit, and within that, the gold-bearing quartz veins are all running around the 340 degrees bearing, so that the rungs of those ladders are all bearing 340 degrees, and they're confined with that diorite dike. And the diorite dike here is just presenting a brittle or a formation that's taking up the strain and dilating and accepting these quartz veins to develop. If we go back to our exploration history, that's slide 5. And if we zoom in I think we can zoom, but if you look at Reedy Creek, you can see a lot of the workings are forming a line trending on that same 340 degree bearing. So the structures and the pressures and the stresses that were in place when these systems developed were the same timing. The difference being that here it's the weaknesses that developed around an anticline versus the weakness of a different unit being a diorite dike down at Sunday Creek. But the timing, the sharing that bearing sort of tells me that the timing and the source of the mineralization are going to be the same. We're 7 kilometers away from them. And when we look at sort of the widths and the extent, that anticline that our mineralization is based around seems to be a lot more extensive. So the other thing to note at Sunday Creek is you've got the combinane anticline and the myriad syncline. So as you go through, you've got these larger anticlines and synclines that are folding, and on each limb of those folds, there's parasitic folds. So you'll have a smaller anticline right next to hosted within the larger anticline, and the same with the synclines. So we see at Reedy Creek, even internally to Reedy Creek, we've got overall it's an anticline, but within that we've got a lot of folding happening off each limb, and each of those is able to host a significant deposit.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Matt. And how much money of your own did you put in the latest private placement at 45 cents?
So I originally intended to put about 150 grand of my own money in. And that's when we had planned to raise about $3 million with the option to upsize to 5 million. And the demand for the financing was about 20 million, with some very strong institutional backers as part of that. And ended up cutting myself and all my partners back to zero to allow for these sound investors that are going to be there long term and want to see this project succeed. So I ended up putting in $0.
Okay, so how many shares do you own and at what overall cost basis?
So I own about 400,000 shares at about 17.5 cents.
And on the insiders with the presumably seed stock private placements or whatever, are there lock agreements on trading those shares?
There are currently no holds on any of the earlier rounds, but the cheapest stock issued in this company is 12.5 cents, and which is what we did the pre-IPO round at in order to secure the asset with the non-refundable 500 grand deposit. So there's no stock cheaper than 12.5 cents in the company.
Okay, thank you.
I love Mickey's no nonsense questions. Jeff Clark, you're up. Yeah, you're muted, Jeff.
There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. Doug Casey, good to see you again. So Matt, first of all, the stock I want to talk about the stock. So it went as high as 69 cents. Yeah, earlier. It's back down to 52. Presumably that's because of some warrants that were in the money and being sold. I don't know if it's a fair question, but do you have a sense for how many warrants that are in the money that are still out there that could be sold here in the near term, making the stock perhaps a little weaker or keeping a lid on it?
Yeah. So Jeff, there hasn't been a single warrant exercised to date. The reason for my interpretation of the reason for the drop from, call it, mid to high 60s to about 50 cents. So when we did our initial financing at 15 cents, that stock came free trading on July 13th. And those investors were in at 15 cents. They were looking at a 3-4 bagger. We have not seen a market like this in a long time. I think a lot of people were very happy to take some money off the table as expected. There was a lot of support that bought this stock up when it dropped to 45 to 50. Our average volume is, I think, close to 750,000 shares traded a day across all exchanges. And there has been a lot of people that did not get filled at 45 when we did the financing that were happy to pick up shares as the sell-off happened. And, we're steadily trading right now around that 50 to 55 cent mark, which is still above the most recent financing price. And again, yeah, we've had 0 warrants exercised to date.
I mean, the volume is fairly impressive, I have to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. The story, I think, is getting out there.
No, exactly. And a lot of people have made a lot of money at Southern Cross, and having an opportunity to get in at the ground floor of another potential big discovery, people are happy to play.
Yeah. No, I think you mentioned earlier, I think it was Brian that asked, but we can expect first assay results not till September. So be after Beaver Creek, or
I don't know. We're at the mercy of the labs. I think Southern Cross is running, I think, north of 10 rigs right now. So the labs aren't exactly overly quick.
Yeah.
So we don't want to put a specific date on it, but we anticipate at sometime in September, we'll start to have steady news flow. And with 2 rigs turning, we should have a regular cadence of news beyond once our first release goes out.
Okay.
Yeah. And one last question. And again, maybe it's not a fair one, but Alan or Matt, there's been obviously some good drill results at Southern Cross. There's been some good historical drill results here on your property. What do you think it's going to take in terms of an assay to really move the stock? There's a lot of high expectation, if I may say. So what do you think it's going to take for this stock to really move in terms of you reporting an assay result?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question to answer, Jeff. But what I will say is that we are trying to prove out structure and a story and a geological interpretation of what we think we have here. And it's not going to be one drill hole that does that. But I think what we're seeing is these geological signatures that are very well known for this area and seen with some other Victorian gold mines. And really what we're trying to do is kind of shape that story and tell that story. And I think if we can start to do that, I think the market will see the potential here. And really that's our goal, is to showcase the potential of this area. And that this is a very, very prospective project and district. I don't want to forecast what the market's going to do based on specific assays, but if we can shape the story that this is potential for another significant high-grade gold deposit, I think we're poised for a real re-rate.
Okay. All right. I see it. Brian and Adrian both have their hands up again, but Jay, I want to give you a chance to jump in before we go back to them.
Yeah, I think just ticking off my questions, most of them have been answered. I think I was under the impression you were going to provide some more information on previous drill results or before you took over the property in the past.
So what we did, Jay, is part of the initial work we did is, as it was mentioned earlier, that when Great Pacific assayed their holes, they really focused on just the vein and not testing the entire hole. And what we are seeing, and that story is evolving, the geological interpretation is evolving daily. And as we see more core and more data becomes available, it's helping kind of shape the narrative. But just the re-assay data alone does not help that. But we are seeing, one of the things that we wanted to see was this low grade halo in between the veining. And we are seeing that, but based on some of the other information that we're getting daily, where we need some more information before we can present it to the market. And that's our intent with, call it the first set of news releases in September.
If I understood, Matt, what you said, and I think as well as what Alan said, you're basically hitting the structures you're expected to hit. The veins, you're hitting the veins, you're seeing what you like to see, you're just waiting for assays, right?
That's exactly it. So when we were drilling the shorter holes, we were hitting the vein where we expected. When we started drilling deeper, we were targeting 3 vein structures. We hit every one of those vein structures. Visually, it's looking promising, which is why we're bringing on a second rig and why we're actively drilling with 2 rigs. But until we get assays, it's too early to tell. But obviously we're excited and keen to be able to get some news out.
And I'm not sure if someone asked you about this, but you got a lot of tenements over to the north, to the east, right? North and east. What are you doing? Did you talk about that? What you're doing?
Yeah, so that was, and Alan touched on that. That is that far east claim is that Providence claim block, which is that area that's seen kind of no modern day exploration, but was a significant gold discovery way back when. So we're doing some regional exploration on that now, and it should see some drilling this year.
I was thinking it was Antimony down at Sunday Creek. Am I getting confused with another project? I don't know.
No, so there is, Antimony is at Sunday Creek. It's at Foster Mill, and typically when you see antimony, it's much deeper. So we're testing for all critical elements. Alan, maybe you can touch on what we're seeing so far near more the surface drilling and kind of what the outlook is.
Yeah. So in the historic drilling, the antimony creeps in with the very highest grades. So the RWD01 had the 610 grams per ton, and that had carried 540. Don't quote me on that. It was around 500 ppm antimony, and yeah, so it's definitely the higher the grade, the more likely antimony's going to be in the system. What we do see is we've got the stronger association with the arsenic, so the arsenopyrite halos. Looking at Fosterville as an example, they've got the arsenopyrite association with gold from surface down to that top layer, and then below that they start seeing the antimony, the stibnite coming in associated with the gold, and then there's a sort of another layer of the onion below that where it's primarily visible gold. So what we think we've got is, we've got this arsenopyrite association that we see strongly. The few really high grade assays that we have start to carry, not significant to the market, but significant geologically amounts of antimony. And as we sort of move southeast, we think we're seeing maybe the system might be tilted. So we might encounter antimony at a shallower depth there. But that we're designing holes around that at the moment to test. And then where we are drilling now, we expect it would come in deeper.
If I understood your answer to Brent Cook, you're suggesting or anticipating higher grades deeper down in the veins, right?
That's what's seen at Fosterville and Costerfield and Sunday Creek. The grade gets better with that.
All right, good. That's all I can think of right now. Thanks.
Okay. Jay, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Adrian, please, what do you got?
Yeah, on that geologic map that Mickey had to put up, you don't have to put it up again. I noticed to the south there's something called Mount Disappointment. And I'm sure that's an interesting story. I don't know if it's a jilted lover or bad drill results, but my question is this. What is your ultimate goal here with the company? Are you planning to build this yourselves? And if so, does Southern Cross have any spare capacity? Or is this something you expect eventually Southern Cross will want to buy?
Yeah, ultimately, we would like to make a discovery of scale, an economic resource that we ultimately sell. And whether that is Southern Cross, whether that is Agnico, whether that is another senior, at the end of the day, that our goal is to make a discovery of scale and exit and provide liquidity for our shareholders.
Okay. And does Southern Cross have spare capacity or not?
Don't know.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Ed?
Alan, sorry, let me lower my hand. Alan, so the veining, okay, so the veins are fairly narrow, right? So do you expect that at depth too? And if yes, what can you elaborate a little bit on the what you're doing to mitigate the risks of missing some of these veins?
Yeah, so the veins are narrow. But one thing we notice, so the two primary rock types or host rocks are the siltstone and the sandstone. The sandstone's more porous, and where the veins are cross-cut, or the faults are cross-cutting the sandstone's able to take up more of the mineralization, and the halo around is upgraded compared to the siltstone. So siltstone's perfectly capable of taking up high-grade gold. The sandstone seems to be much better at that. So one of the things we're targeting is these sandstone layers, how they're folded around, and trying to target where the faults are cross-cutting these, because that appears to be where the shoot's going to be much better developed.
Is there a way to quantify the probability of assuming that structure is there, probability of missing on that, or no?
So the faults themselves are fairly easy to target, and we're building up our understanding of the folding and the different units that we're encountering. But at this stage, it looks like it's early days, but I think we'll be able to target these more exciting areas fairly accurately going forward.
And what's the depth that you've drilled the most to so far?
This hole to date is 330-ish meters, 340 I think was end hole.
And final question, what are can you tell visually on the drill holes, or
so the quartz stands out. Not all quartz veins are carrying, but if you've got a quartz vein and you see sort of disseminated specks of pyrite, arsenopyrite around it, that's a pretty good indicator. Anytime that we're seeing sulfides in the system, the gold numbers are up. But putting an actual number on that visually is very hard to do.
Right. Thank you.
Great. Doug, please go ahead.
Well, it's hard for me to find any worthwhile question to ask, since they've all basically been asked. Nonetheless, what is the geological age of this deposit? Have you been able to determine that? Is it recent or quite old?
It's that's a good question. It's fairly recent. All I can say is, the rocks get younger too, from older rocks in the west of Victoria to the east. I think we're about 300 million years, but don't quote me on that. The deposit itself, and on that map with the geology, so it'll be related to the granites being placed in the area, I'm sure, but more than that, I can't say.
And I know this is very early days still, and you've got a lot of drilling left to do. But especially since this is narrow veins, I'm just wondering if you anticipate at some point to fully ready the deposit for marketing to somebody else, since you're not going to mine it yourself. Do you think you're going to have to put in a tunnel or a drift, something of that nature, to drill from underground to see what's really there?
Once we settle on an area that really needs that focus, that drill out, the tunnel's interesting. It allows you to drill 24 hours, in this area we're limited to single shifting daylight drilling, and that's due to noise and trying to minimize our impact on the local communities. A tunnel allows you to drill 24/7, but it's something we'd only really look at further down the line.
All right. I guess the other question I have has to do with who's looking at the company so far. This might be more for Matt, I think. Are there any brokerage firms or letter writers that have analyzed the company so far and published their results?
We don't have any coverage from brokerage houses at this point, but we are doing desk presentations weekly with all of the, call it, Toronto and Canadian firms. So I anticipate some coverage coming in the near term. Red Cloud, for example, was instrumental in the most recent financing we did, bringing Jupiter Asset Management into the company, as long as many others. So yeah, today we have no research coverage right now, but I assume that is on the horizon.
So we would be the first group of independent letter writers that have looked at the story, therefore.
So from a newsletter standpoint, Jeff Clark, who's on the panel, has wrote a piece on us. I've done an interview with Jay Taylor, who is on this panel. And then Bob Moriarty is also wrote a piece on it.
Okay. I guess that's really all I've got.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
I've just got one more question before we let Matt and Alan go and just chat for a few minutes ourselves, and that is, why should an investor buy the stock right now? Why is it a good idea to buy it today?
Good question, Matt. So we are a very well priced drill punt with a ton of blue sky, with no financing overhang coming. We will be drilling for, call it, the next year without the need to raise money. If we make any sort of discovery, I think we are set for a real re-rate. And yeah, we're excited that we'll be telling the story in much more detail come September. The macro environment is evolving. The gold space is getting much more bullish.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's good. So thank you guys very much for that. That was a great presentation, Matt and Alan. Thank you for getting up so early. I guess it's 6 a.m. your time now. I really appreciate you doing this for us. You guys can go ahead and hop off now, and we'll just chat privately for a few minutes. Okay. And I'll be in touch by email.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Mickey, I know you were holding back before, but what do you got to say this time? What do you got to say now? What do you guys think? You got these exploration or these early stage things, to me, is a total, as somebody who doesn't, how do you predict?
Well, I would say it's a crapshoot. It's certainly got a good address. It's an early stage company that's going to be dependent on drill results. Basically, the market cap to me of 35 to 40 million right now is driven by the area play. And so at this stage, there's one project. So it's a one-trick pony dependent on drill results. And of course, it could be moved by a frothy bull market.
Yeah, I would go along with Mickey. I actually like this one. I think the geologic settings right. Alan seems to have a handle on what he's doing. This is 35 million market cap compared to $1 billion next door. It's going to be tough. It's going to take a lot of very detailed drilling. These ladders, as he calls them, are only 20 to maximum 100 meters across. So you've got to target those pretty good. So it's going to take a lot of drilling. But the geologic setup, I like. I don't see the urgency to buy it right now. But it's worth a punt, I think.
Right. If I could just add to that, I agree. It's a great location. It's a fertile geological setting. And beyond that, they've got a few drill holes that show there is definitely gold in this particular system. And the previous workings confirm that. And Southern Cross next door provides a model. And beyond just the model and the closology, they've got that verified team that's going to bring their insights from the Southern Cross project to this, and I think add a lot of value to them and really enhance their systematic approach to drill targeting.
Yeah, I would agree with what everyone's saying. I think also the people involved would add to the market cap, adding to what Mickey said. I'm interested in what Brent says because I actually was a bit confused about the geology. I thought the presentation was a bit light on that. That historic hole RWD01 is really extraordinary. And I think that they should explain, why it's there. I mean, it's almost unbelievable in that setting. It's really anomalous to the historic results. They don't have a lot of historic results, but still, it really sticks out like a sore thumb. And I think that bears some explanation. They aren't twinning the hole, which, as I said, was to their credit. I mean, not exactly twinning. It looks like they're 25, 50 meters away. But, what is that thing? It's interesting to me that proves that there's the kinds of potential results that could really move this stock and at least support the thesis right off the bat. But if you're drilling 2,000 meters or 6,000 meters and you started in early June, you're not going to have results till September. That seems a little long to me, a little delayed. That they're trying to get enough results in before releasing something. But the target could really yield the kind of results that could be market moving. I'm curious. There's no geophysics that they put in there. I'm sure they don't have any, but I don't know. Brent could probably chime in. Would that do any good in this setting?
I don't know. How's that for an honest answer?
That's a great answer, actually.
Can I chime in? Oh, sorry.
Please.
Yeah. I normally don't invest in drill hole plays because I'm not a geologist. I don't have an edge. This one does have a couple of, well, let me put it another way. It doesn't have a couple of negatives that you often find with early stage drill hole plays. Namely, as we commented, the liquidity in the stock is pretty good. So if you did buy a position and it didn't work out, you could get out of it, which is always good to know. And the second thing, of course, is that they don't need to raise any money soon. And with those 25-cent options, if what he told us is correct, with 25-cent warrants with early investors, they could twist some arms to get some more cash in if they needed it. So those are two positives that you often see as negatives in early stage drill holes. So yeah, it's interesting. Maybe Brent or someone can tell me if I'm right on this. I was a bit surprised he couldn't tell us the age of the rocks.
Well, on the map, it's Devonian Silurian.
Okay, but Doug asked him and he...
What did you say, Silurian? Because that's not 30 million. That's more like 300 million, isn't it, Brent?
That's what he said. He said 300 million was his guess.
Oh, I thought I heard 30.
I heard 30.
No,
he said 300.
Differentiate between the host rocks and the age of the mineralization.
Okay.
I see.
Well, I heard 200, so we've got everything covered now.
I'll go back and listen, but I'm pretty sure he said 300.
It's all 600,000 or 6,000. Sorry.
Of course it is. That's right.
No, it's 7 days and we all rested on August 7th.
Exactly. So Doug, you as a speculator, stock like this, is it worth?
It's not a bad story, I think, compared to 1,000 others out there. That's the problem. There's 1,000 others out there, and they're all saying me, by me. So,
Yeah, but this one makes Brent interested, and Mickey, and I hear people who know a lot about about rocks saying, there's some good qualities here.
true, but one thing I meant to ask is that, okay, it's one thing if Americans and Canadians are buying it, but how much of the stock is owned by locals in Australia? And wasn't one of the brokers involved in this from the UK? And of course, there's some punting on these things there. Just
I think the structure is pretty tight, Doug. I think they have I think the vendors have about 30% or something like that. And I think that there's another group that has, 10%. And but what I like about it is the address, right? And the fact that the depth hasn't been really explored in this area. But what I don't like about it is my dislikes are, Great Pacific. They drilled the shallow hole and they got a nice hole, but they didn't even target the depth. And they sold it off, which is fine. They kept an equity position, but I noticed that they sold like 1 million shares of the stock already. So they're pretty quick to cash out, I think. But other than that, it's a crapshoot, and like Mickey said, it's a crapshoot. But it's in a good address, and it's an interesting theory. So,
well, yeah. And there's one other thing. Speaking to what Matt asked, would I go out and buy some tomorrow morning? And the problem is that we all know that you can easily wind up with not just 10 or 20, which is probably the most that you want to have of these stocks. You buy every kind of halfway decent sounding story, and you wind up with 50 or 100 things, and you can't possibly keep track of them. So based on that, would I go out and buy it tomorrow morning? Since there's so many other girls out there that want to be kissed. Probably not. I'll wait and see, but I'll put it on my radar. So that's a plus, I guess.
My recollection, Doug, is that some of your biggest gainers are in stuff you forgot you owned.
Well, that's true, Ben. So that's true too.
Well, here's the thing, though, Doug. If this was a private placement, you would own it already.
Yes, I would. That warrant would force me to own it for at least 4 months.
Yeah, and I think that is the proper way to play a crapshoot. Is if they have financing, get the warrant, sell the shares. That's how you play it. I think that's the best way to do it.
I asked the question about visuals because I wondered if we'll get any indication before September's drill results come out.
Yeah, he seemed very clear, so I asked him again, is there anything we should see? And it seems like no. Yeah. All right, well, as a punt, I kind of, I'd be interested in probably buying it myself. Buy a little position just so I keep track of it. For me, I can't really keep it on my radar unless I own a little bit of it.
That's a great endorsement, Matt.
That's true.
I have few things I mostly lose, but I think I'll buy this one.
All right. Anything else, guys, before we wrap up?
Yeah, I didn't weigh in, but I just wanted to say, full disclosure, I do own the stock, Golden Cross, not Jay's.
Sure.
We did recommend it, so it's a spec, but I think it's a good spec. If you're looking at early stage drill plays, whatever your criteria might be, I think this meets a lot of that criteria. But again, it's a spec. But I like it, and I think there's a reasonable chance, by this time next year that they might be onto something. So could be interesting.
They're drilling old workings, and they've got a lot of them. And so
yeah, they have evidence that they have more ladders than actually Southern Cross has.
A lot more. 55.
A lot more. And again, it's early stage. I know that it's total spec, but I do like it. I think it's worth a position. Yeah.
Jeff, why do you think that Southern Cross passed on it?
I don't know if they passed on it.
Yeah, I don't know either if they did.
I didn't get that impression, but because remember, Golden Cross got their position, the land position, and then Southern Cross came in right after them and locked up another land holding within theirs. So I think that was kind of the order, is my understanding. So I'm not sure that Southern Cross actually passed on it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, guys, I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate this, and I'll let you know when it's published. So, and I'll try to get this out within 24 hours, 48 hours is my typical turnaround time. So, thank you very much, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.